You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Norman.
John.
Welcome back. Welcome to you. Welcome to everybody who's watching and listening.
Today is Wednesday.
Oh, you gave it up. You gave it up right there. You know what we're talking about today because you did the voice.
I have no honor.
Hey, look, at least it's not an email about Zek. Okay?
Next time.
All right. Welcome to Mission Log Engage, the show where we get to engage with your comments and questions. And we've got a great one today. I don't think John will be upset with me giving his full name. It's John Arminio. John Arminio, longtime listener and friend of the show. Yeah. Yay for having John. Podcaster in his own right, and calls into the live show. And this is just a great email. It's from a little while ago, but I held on to it, and I think that you will understand and you will be entertained by why I held on to this to share it in this most perfect forum.
I cannot wait.
All right. First of all, the subject of this email: why does DS9 hate Worf? And I read. All right, this is from John.
Okay.
So I have, a lot of thoughts about sons and daughters. I mean, I love Worf, and I was really taken with his character growth in TNG, from this stern Klingon presence in the back of the bridge to a more Klingon than Klingon orphan who is in desperate search for acceptance from both the culture he was born into and the culture he was adopted into. Even in the final season, he emerged as someone who had grown so much that he was a possible romantic partner for Deanna Troi. He was able to make compromises and think of the needs of others before his own, to be sensitive as well as strong, something it seems the DS9 writers forget every time he has a romantic scene with Jadzia Dax, a fact that continues to frustrate me. Where was that Worf when vacationing on Risa, or any time Jadzia and Worf discuss their wedding? Anyway, TNG never did manage to come to a conclusion about Alexander and left his existence hanging, one of the show's failures. I was hoping that DS9 might find a way to handle Worf as a father without making him a worse parent, but I was definitely disappointed with sons and daughters. In TNG, we saw Worf so overcome with grief and emotion that he screamed to the heavens in grief over the loss of Kalar, Alexander's mother. I wish we had more time with Kalar, a great character, wonderfully played by Susie Plaxton. But if we had to lose her, I wish Star Trek could have found a way to use her death to bring Alexander and Worf together instead of pushing them apart. Worf was willing to be emotionally vulnerable in front of his son, to be a Klingon in how potent, powerful, and tragic that grief is. It was a moment worthy of epic poetry, where the warrior hero is brought low not by an armed foe, but by the loss of his great love. It's one of Star Trek's greatest missed opportunities, in my opinion. In Sons and Daughters, as you pointed out, Worf does so much to be dishonorable, to stay away from Klingon tradition. He has been shown to have distanced himself from Alexander even further over the years, to be embarrassed by his own flesh and blood. It would have been the honorable thing to do to move heaven and earth, or Sto-vo-kor and Kronos, to be with his son. It would have taken so little effort for the show to establish Worf continuously trying to get in touch with Alexander, but have Alexander rebuff or ignore his communications. That way, it's Alexander's choice to reject his father, and we could understand Worf's standoffish nature to Alexander's presence on the bird of prey. It would have given Alexander more of an actualized arc and made us more sympathetic to Worf, a father who lives in regret for his abandonment of his son, and one who has been trying to make up for lost time. It was up to Martok, someone we all thought Worf was learning from, to be a father figure to Alexander. Why didn't Worf utilize all that mentorship from the great general? Did he learn nothing? Obviously, I would have liked some sort of explanation for Alexander not being around back when Worf first appeared on the show, but we're way past that, I guess. Anyway, Sons and Daughters frustrated me quite a bit, as you can tell, as the Dukat Kira Zial story was so well done and creepy, and we had several very strong episodes to begin season 6, so to be reminded of the way the show has continued to fail a character I've followed for years was particularly irksome. Sorry for the rant. I appreciate your continued excellent commentary and discussion on the podcast and live streams. I hope all is well with you. Live long and prosper, John Arminio.
Well
Ha!
thought, John.
Yes.
Well thought out. Well
Yes.
articulated.
Yeah. Anything to add to that?
You know, when I first came on to Mission Log, I came on in season 4 with with Worf being introduced into the storyline. Now I knew Worf from the Next Generation, and I know all of these salient points that John is bringing into this discussion, especially with Kaylair, her death, how that could have changed the destiny between Worf and Alexander, bringing them closer together, even bringing the Roshenkos and that entire family dynamic like closer together. What I think happened with the introduction of Worf in season 4, I just don't think that they really considered all of the dimensions of his character when they brought him into the storyline. It felt like there was a need for a Klingon there, maybe to bring the Klingons into the war, but it doesn't necessarily had to have been Worf, because I never really felt that any of the particular storylines that even focused on Worf really gave us a better insight into who he is past the original, past the Next Generation, and even some of the movies where he's just shoehorned in there for an appearance, for contract's sake. And you can tell, right?
Yeah.
You can also tell that in the beginning of season 4 with the Klingons. So I just don't feel that they understood, one, Worf's character moving forward into Deep Space Nine. Maybe they could have focused on he came there or took that assignment to get so far away from the pain that he's experiencing to start a life so far from Galactic Center that no one would really know who he really was, and he could start kind of fresh.
Yeah.
That would have been an interesting story. So I just never felt ever connected with Worf in Deep Space Nine. And we have taken him to task on many occasions where John has pointed out some of those. But I don't think that's unfair, because we criticize when we feel that certain things aren't communicating well. And I think that Worf is that character. He's not communicating well in front of the screen and, in the scripts.
Yeah. I mean, look, the phrase here is missed opportunity. And to have Worf be developed over a 7-season period on TNG, then bring him into Deep Space Nine, it felt like we were just starting fresh, but the face is familiar. And why we didn't have, like every now and then there would be a reference, in one line to something on the Enterprise, but that was very few and far between. Even when Worf is getting into a relationship with Jadzia, there's no mention of Deanna, there's no mention of Kaylar, there's no sense at all that he's learned from anything in his past and become a better person. And I'm sorry, but their trip to Risa was just that episode still makes me angry. There was every opportunity to have a better Worf, and they botched it all over the place. Alexander was just sort of another example of the kid they don't know what to do with. And fortunately, DS9 gave us the kid that they did know what to do with, which is Jake. Whereas TNG, they weren't always sure what to do with Wesley. Certainly, they weren't aware of what to do with Alexander. And I could not believe it. They redeemed Alexander so well in Deep Space Nine. And by then it was over. It was just like, okay, well, we brought him in, and we had this very uncomfortable reunion with Worf. And I think John's email here is perfect in describing how they could have done that in a way that would have felt more earned and better to drive Worf forward a little bit, make him more honorable. But then by the time we get that Alexander that we all just love and go like, yes, this is the guy who has found himself, we never see him again.
Right.
So it really feels like there was the need to go back and almost rewatch TNG and say, oh, wait, how far have we gotten here with Worf? Now, how can we push this forward? Not how do we make this guy a mess and unable to have a relationship with anybody. So, yeah, I feel you.
I also think that because he mentions Dukat, Kira, and Zial as one part of that story, and then Alexander and Worf is another part of the story. The reason why there's such a huge disparity between those two threads is because the Dukat and Kira and Zial story, all of the groundwork was earned and laid out well and crafted well. so that we have agency with that story. It's the complete opposite with Worf and Alexander, because Worf has not been laid out that well up until that point, being inserted as a character for various obvious reasons. So that's why there's that there's that tonal difference between those two storylines, which are essentially the exploration of children in the lives of their parents.
Yeah.
You can see that it's not unobvious.
Right. Right.
Right.
John, I love your comments. I love your contributions to the show. Keep them coming. And if you would like to chime in, well, you can send us your comments at missionlog@roddenberry.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at missionlogpod. Remember to subscribe to the Mission Log Engage playlist over at youtube.com/roddenberryprod. And remember, we may engage with your comments on the air.